Therefore, there is no basis for negotiations between us and them.
Umeshindana na sisi 2030 ukakushinda. Umeenda ukafukuza mtu mdogo anaitwa Isaka sana na makarani wengine. Umekushinda tena hata juzi. Sasa umewachana na sisi unaenda kukimbiza watu wengine wadogo sijui Kinova nani unataka kuwanyanyasa atuwafukuza.
We are ready to conduct exams. The timetable will not change. I need to emphasize that. The examination timetable will not change.
They have not responded to our letter. Therefore, there is no basis for negotiations between us and them.
Umeshindana na sisi 2030 ukakushinda. Umeenda ukafukuza mtu mdogo anaitwa Isaka sana na makarani wengine. Umekuzinda tena hata juzi.
Good morning once again. We apologize for that technical hitch. This is Citizen Extra. My name is Lillian Muli, and this morning we continue to look at issues surrounding whether or not the country will be holding the repeat presidential election on the 17th of October. We look at issues surrounding the IEBC and its preparedness ahead of this repeat presidential election. This, among other stories, coming your way on Citizen Extra this morning. With us in studio, Joseph Simeha, once again introducing our guest panelist in studio this morning. He's a political analyst, and Gabriel Muthuma also with us on Citizen Extra this morning. We'll also be talking to our reporters who are on location in different parts of the country. We'll begin with Nyeri County as we look at issues that are surrounding, of course, news shaping the day there. Let's cross over to Martin, who is in Nyeri County. Martin, what's happening in Nyeri?
A very good morning to you, Lillian. And indeed, like you said, you're getting us live from Nyeri County. We are at the very heart of Nyeri town. This is along Kimathi Street. And from Nyeri, I can say that anxiety is slowly slipping into this county over the election dates, with a lot of residents here feeling that the election day should not be changed, as they're making their schedules and plans around that date. And we've got a few residents here who are going to just give us a feel of that. And to start us off is one man. If you can kindly join me here, just help us understand their feeling, especially about the date of the election. Kindly, if you can just stand here and kindly look at the camera, labda tueleze kwa kifupi sana maoni yako hasa kuhusu ile tarehe ya uchaguzi. Naanza jina lako tafadhali.
Jina langu naitwa Michael Ndongo kutoka kaunti ya Nyeri, na tunaonelea maoni ile tuko naye, uchaguzi sije kageuzwa, sababu koti ndiyo iliamua tuzidi hivyo, sababu pia tukirudi hiyo tarehe nyuma mambo yatakuwa yanaharibika sana. Kwa hivyo wananchi wanangoja na hamu sana ndio tuingie uchaguzi, ndio tuamue hii watu vile tumeamua hawa. Kwa hivyo tuko na amani katika Nyeri, na tutaki kusosana na tutaki mambo mbaya katika Nyeri. Tuko na amani vile rais wetu alimesema tuwe na amani. Bado tunangojea, tunasubiri, tunangojea hiyo tarehe, sababu kuna watu wako shule na tutaki hiyo masomo itatizwe, sababu ikitatizwa uchumi utarudi nyuma tena. Sasa hiyo mambo ya shule ndio muhimu sana, sababu hiyo watu ndio wanangojea hamu sana kufanya mtihani. Kwa hivyo tutaki hiyo tarehe igeuzwe, sababu ikigeuzwa matoto watakuwa na ujukumu sana kurudi nyumbani kwao, na tuko na shida. Kwa hivyo tungesema serikali vile koti iliamua iendelee hivyo, na tutaki mwingine aseme sio hivyo, sababu wao ndio waliamua na koti ndio tunangojea, na rais wetu bado yuko na anasubiri sana. Wote wanangojea ndio tuwe na uamuzi mzuri katika Kenya mzima. Tutaki vita, tutaki magombano, kila mtu akae pale iko na salama. Hapo tuko na kabila nyingi katika Nyeri. Kila kabila yote iko hapa anafanya biashara, wako kwa kazi, na tutaki matatizo yote. Tunataka amani katika Nyeri, na tuko na amani katika serikali.
All right, just another gentleman to help us understand issues around the date. Are you comfortable with the date that the IEBC has set, or would you like it to be changed?
Okay, thank you. My name is John Wahome Drito. I'm a resident here in Nyeri. And we don't want to change the date of the election because it will affect a lot of things, especially concerning our children who are preparing themselves to do their final exams, especially standard 8 students and above students. They are the future leader. I know you have put a lot of effort, you have invested with them. So if you are going to affect those students and those people, it will have a lot of negativity to them. The other issue is concerning our economy. We have seen what is happening now. So many people have already, especially the investors, they are fearing to come to our country because of the election. So we want these things we want the election to be held on 17th, so that we do away with those elections and we start working for the better of our country. The other issue is concerning the way people are living. There is a lot of tension now. If we are going to change, we are requesting the IBC. They should do all the things possible so the independent body to the election to be held on 17th, so that at least we are prepared and we are ready to turn up in large number. At least in Nyeri, we are going to turn up at 100%. You know what we did on 8th, and we are going to do the same, because we are mandated by the constitution to elect our leader. They are not the one to elect themselves. We are the people who are going to elect our leader. So let's give the chance to our citizens so that they can do what to do what is right to them. Thank you so much, and pray for peace of our country, and we love Kenya. Thank you.
And maybe as we finalize, maybe to hear a different perspective from a lady this time, to maybe help us understand, as a lady, are they ready? Are you comfortable with the election date, and what are some of the things that you'd like looked upon?
Okay, my name is Anne. I'm a resident in Nyeri. I'm also a parent. I would say just for the date of 17, we feel it is convenient. We don't want to fail our children, because they are already they are waiting for their exam. So we don't want to fail our children. We are comfortable with the date of 17. Let us come out here in Nyeri in large number. Here in Nyeri we are peaceful. We don't want anybody interfering with the date of 17. So I don't have so much to say, but we are so much comfortable on date 17. Yeah.
Alright, that is how things are in Nyeri County, and like I say, people feeling a little bit itchy, actually saying they want this election done with, especially because most of the people here are business people relying on what they do on the farm and actually selling the same, and they're feeling that their businesses are suffering. Also, like one gentleman said, that Nyeri is a metropolitan town. A lot of tribes actually are in this place, and they are being affected by the tension right now. People are not able to plan, especially without knowing for sure that the elections will be held on the 17th. Back to you, Lillian. I am Martin Munene, and that is how things are in Nyeri County.
Thanks for that. That's Martin Munene in Nyeri County. Residents there concerned about the fact that the October 17th fresh presidential election might actually not be held, and concerns being raised there surrounding business activities, investors as well, and generally a feeling that this election must be held on the 17th of October from residents in Nyeri. We're back in Nairobi County now, where Stephen Letor is in Parliament ahead, of course, of the MP's induction, and we will be getting details from him on what exactly is happening there, or what is going to be happening there for the better part of the day. Stephen?
Morning to you, Lillian. There in studio. Second day of induction of members of the National Assembly and the Senate, that taking place in two different counties, one in the National Assembly taking place in Nairobi County, and the other for senators taking place in Nakuru County, particularly Naivasha. This second day bringing issues to do with the parliamentary committees, how they are constituted and how new members will be taken through, which committee should they join and what they shouldn't, because also Parliament is keen on what it terms as the professionalism of members of Parliament. There are members of Parliament who are very versed with some topics, for instance economics, for instance issues to do with budget, those who have done economics going to budget, those who have done matters administration going to committees on security, those who have done maybe going to oversight, and so that is the training that is ongoing today. But also there are a lot of issues that took place, for instance, yesterday here in Nairobi, where members of the National Assembly were taken through the standing orders, several issues to do with the house laws and all that. The same happening in Naivasha, where the issue of impeachment of governors coming to the fore, whereby the current Senate Speaker, who was a former governor, that is former Bungoma Governor Ken Lusaka, is now the Senate Speaker, saying that, you know, members of the Senate were taking an impeachment as an easy thing, just bringing a motion to the floor and adopting a motion passed in the county assemblies and going to the chambers, debating it and impeaching a governor. Lusaka saying that, you know, defending his former colleagues, that, you know, it is not just that easy going and impeaching a governor who is sitting, saying that there is a lot of things that needs to be considered in terms of law, as well as the threshold to impeach a governor or to trigger a governor leaving office, and subsequently other laws to follow. And so those are some of the issues that took place in Naivasha for the Senate retreat. Remember, 67 of them are undergoing that training that comes to a close on Friday, a 5-day training that kicked off yesterday. But today, a number of issues are expected to take center stage. For instance, this afternoon, we are expecting the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, to come and address members of Parliament on matters security. Today is the major topic today in Parliament, in that induction, is security, not only for particularly security of members of Parliament. So we are having the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, coming to that induction to address members of Parliament on all issues surrounding security of members. And also we are aware of the issues that will also be taking place here, the issue of etiquette, the issue of parliamentary immunity for members of Parliament. And so, you know, when members are inside the presence of Parliament, they are immune to external interference. They are immune to arrests and several other issues. For instance, if I can take you back, Lillian, is when the former Embakasi Member of Parliament, who is now Kiambu Governor, Ferdinand Waititu, when he uttered some uncomfortable words against the Maasai community, there was a plot, or it reached to a point where he was to be arrested. And what he did, he stayed inside the parliamentary presence to about midnight, and he escaped that particular arrest. And so those are some of the immunity that the members of Parliament enjoy inside here. And so those are some of the issues that members of Parliament will be taken today by the security team that will be coming to that particular induction. And of course, they will also be taken to what extent then should members of Parliament enjoy that immunity, and where does that immunity come to an end. Lillian, it is not only the Inspector General of Police, Joseph Boynet, that will be coming to that induction this afternoon. The Director of the National Intelligence Service, Philip Musheru, will also be making his way to that induction to bring members of Parliament to what they attempt that, you know, there's some members of his department works here in Parliament, and so he will also be having his time to speak to members of Parliament. And so that a lot of issues, of course, they also have their representative driving down to Naivasha to brief members of the Senate about the same. But all the same, Lillian, we are keeping a close eye on what will be transpiring in that afternoon. We will be having that security team coming to address members of Parliament. And so there are also several issues lined up, issues to do with the minority house leadership, that by yesterday the clerk of the National Assembly, Michael Sialai, rejected a list that was presented by Bungoma Senator Moses Wetangula, who is also a NASA core principal. Sialai saying that, you know, they presented those names in contravention with Article 20 of the standing orders of the National Assembly. That requires that the whip nominee, who is for that case Robert Mbui, the Member of Parliament for Kasiani, presents that list to the Speaker of the National Assembly, of course attaching minutes that came up from that meeting that agreed upon that particular list of House leadership. And so we are waiting to see whether the National Super Alliance members will will do that today, and whether the House will be complete in terms of leadership of minority, the whip of the minority, and all that. And so, Lillian, I will hand you back, but later on again, we'll be able to, walk around the committee rooms that, those particular trainings are taking place. We speak to a number of the Parliamentary House leadership, as well as the new members of Parliament, to tell us what is their feeling, their second day, what are some of the challenges that they have been able to go through, what they have not been able to understand, and what do they think of going forward till Friday. And so, Lillian, for now, I hand you back, but later on, we'll again link up with you for more updates from Parliament.
Thanks for that. That's Stephen Leto giving us an update from Parliament. We're staying with that story, and let's cross over now to Uasin Gishu County. John Wanyama is in Eldoret. We are also looking at news shaping the day there. John, good morning. How are you? And what's the latest in Eldoret?
A very good morning to you, Lillian, and here I'm in Moiben Center, Moiben constituency, and this is the real food basket for this country. And Lillian, there are farmers here who are unhappy, Lord, and they are saying that they are really counting losses after they prepared, planted, and expected that they are going to get a good harvest from their farms. But unfortunately, this is not a story here, because most of farmers here are going to lose, because their maize were destroyed by armyworms, and some farmers, their maize were destroyed due to lack of rain. Lillian, something of interest is that Uasin Gishu County alone this year is going to lose over 1.2 million bags of maize, something that really can shake the food basket of this country. And as you remember, this year alone, Uasin Gishu County also faced a very big food shortage, and we saw some people coming up with the rules and laws, especially in cereal boards, that they expected someone to come and maybe fetch 1 or 2 bags of maize from the cereal board. You are expected to show that you have a family and you are really married, and you are needed to maybe to issue a marriage certificate. Maybe, Lillian, let me talk to 1 or 2 farmers here to tell us what are their views about this, and what are they expecting from their farms. Mama, pengine utueleze mahindi yako pia yameharibika na yameharibika kiwango gani?
Mahindi yangu nilikuwa nimepanda 20 acres, lakini eka karibu 5 iliharibika, nikang'oa zingine kujaribu kufanya plan, lakini haikufanya vizuri. Sasa nikapoteza kitu karibu eka 5, na nikajaribu kupanda. Sasa mahindi ilikuwa imeshikwa na hiyo vitu nyeusi kwa kichwa wakati ilikuwa inatoa. Nimekatakata hiyo mbaya na kuacha zingine, nikakatakata kidogo nikaweka silage ya mahindi. Hasa mwaka huu tutakosa chakula.
Naam, pengine jamaa songa hapo tuongelesha moja.
Mahindi kwetu sisi imerudi chini, sio kama vile kawaida, kwa sababu mwezi wa 7 vile ilikuwa ikitoa kichwa, mahindi mvua ilikosa, na mbeleni tena kulikuweko na hii wadudu ambayo waliangamiza sana. Sasa hiyo imerudi chini, na wakulima wamepata hasara, kwa sababu kulikuweko na hiyo dawa zenye saa zingine hazikuwa zikimaliza sana. Sasa si tunaomba tu serikali.
Na mliwahi pata ile dawa ambayo pengine serikali ilisema itawaletea kupiga dawa kwa wale wadudu?
Hiyo hakuna, kwa sababu ilipatikana kidogo sana, kama 10% ndio walipata, lakini hizo zingine ulikuwa ukipatiwa, kama uko na eka 10 unapatiwa ya eka 2. Sasa hiyo ilikuwa ni kidogo tu.
Asante. Na pengine tuzungumzie
kwa majina, naitwa Chafet Kipchirchir, natoka Serkoit Ward. Hapa kwetu tukiangalia maneno ya mahindi imekuwa chini sana, kwa maana vile tulianza kupanda ikatoka, alafu dutu ikawasumbua. Sasa na serikali haikutusaidia sana kwa maneno ya madawa. Sasa tunaomba serikali watuangalie, kwa maana sasa tunakuwa na shida mingi. Kama saa hii tuko na shida ya mvua, tukiona hivi sasa tutapoteza mahindi mingi sana, kwa maana kuna watu wameshapoteza mahindi tayari, wameshakatia ng'ombe zingine tayari, wadudu bado inaangamiza tu zile mahindi. Sasa tunaomba serikali, Ministry ya Agriculture hatuangalie, kama wapunge wetu waende pale bunge watusaidie kuongea juu ya maneno ya hii ukulima, kwa maana tukiendelea namna hii hatutakuwa na maana ya kulima tena. Tunapanda mahindi tunapoteza, tukipanda ngano tunaelekea kupoteza hizo mali yetu, na hii ni vitu ya kutegemea.
Asante sana kwa kuongea na runinga ya Citizen. Now Lilian, if you heard it clearly, is that especially farmers here in Moiben, this is the large scale farmers. They are normally found here, but it's really disappointing and heartbreaking when you hear that most of them have started to cut down their maize, especially to try and maybe feed their animals, especially cows here. And the country is warned that it should be prepared for more or for lack of food, especially this year, because this is as just one county, especially Uasin Gishu. But when we cross to our neighboring county, that is Trans Nzoia, the situation is worse and double than what is happening here in Uasin Gishu. Lilian.
John, I see you're surrounded by farmers. What are they saying about the issue of armyworms there and how that has affected their yield?
Thank you, Lilian. They are saying that armyworms is they are the ones that have destroyed this maize at a large percentage, and that the government had promised them that they are going to bring maybe insecticide to ensure that they spray so that they can salvage a few of the farms that or lands that could be remaining. But they are saying they got only a little, maybe 10%. But so far the armyworms is still going on to eat and to destroy this maize. So and there are few farms that we have checked is that farmers have given up. They have waited for this insecticide to come so that they can spray this insect so that it can go away, but nothing so far, and they have decided to destroy their maize. They are saying it's just waste of time, because also when they were expecting this maybe drug to come in on time, the government didn't, and a few, like 10% only, managed to receive this insecticide. So far the situation is not good.
Okay, that's John Wanyama there. He is at the bread basket, and he's surrounded by farmers there who have expressed their concerns. Also talking about the October 17th date that has been slated for the repeat presidential election, and the concerns surrounding the yield. The farmers there concerned about this electioneering period and how it has affected productivity and indeed business in that particular part of the country. Let's take a look at the state of affairs in Mombasa County, where Bikedusa is on standby. What's the latest in Mombasa? Good morning from Mombasa County. We are joined by Bikedusa as she updates us on what is happening there, what people in Mombasa are saying about the elections that are slated for the 17th of October, and indeed other issues surrounding this particular repeat process. Can you hear me? And what's the latest on your end?
Very good morning to you, Lilian, in Nairobi. Here in Mombasa, actually in the morning it was very rainy, as the meteorological department said yesterday that the coast region will be experiencing showers of rain, and actually it rained today in the morning. Aside from that, maybe to update you, yesterday at 10 p.m. a businessman was shot here in Mombasa, and also a bodyguard of a politician known as Hisham Farid was also injured in that incident. OCPD Urban Mombasa, Lucas Ogaro, actually said they're actually pursuing the people who are behind that attack, because the businessman was actually shot by unknown gunmen. Aside from that, I will be speaking to some residents of Mombasa who will be explaining about how they feel about the IEBC actually date of 17th October of the election, considering that there has been push and pull either from the opposition and also from the government, which is the Jubilee Party. Naam, tueleze majina yako na hisia zako kuhusiana na hii tarehe ya uchaguzi, tarehe 17 Oktoba. Unaonaje, hasa ukiangalia kumekuwa na vuta ni kuvuta?
Asante sana, mimi naitwa John Agesa, mkaji wa Mombasa Kisauni constituency. Mimi naona uchaguzi wa tarehe 17 hakutawezekana, kwa sababu hii pande zote mbili wanavutana, na haki ni kwamba ndio Wakenya wawe na amani, wangetatua mzozo iliyoko kati ya Jubilee na kati ya NASA. Wakitatua na IEBC warekebishe nyumba yao vizuri, tutaenda kwa uchaguzi ambaye inafaa Wakenya wote walio wengi. Lakini wakikosa kutatua mzozo, uchaguzi hakutakuweko. Na wasisingizie habari ya mtihani. Mtihani can be postponed ama inaweza fanywa mapema. Uchaguzi ndio iwe ya haki, alafu amani ifuate. Asante sana.
Asante sana. Itakuwa tunajiunga na mkazi mwingine. Majina yako na hisia zako kuhusiana na hii tarehe 17 ya uchaguzi?
Mimi naitwa Naftali. Mimi naona uchaguzi haitafanyika. Kwa sababu unajua kurudia kwa uchaguzi na wale commissioners. Hii ni mfano, nikitoa mfano ni kama basi yenye imefanya ajali. Driver alikuwa anaendesha gari ikafanya ajali, na baada ya watu kufariki katika hii ajali, anachukua wale ambao katika hali ya mahututi, the same driver anawapeleka tena kwenye ana driver ambulance apeleke kwa matibabu. Sasa hii ni kama tuna risk. Kitu tunaomba ni hivi, hao watu wasikize watu wa NASA wana mpango gani, sababu zile vitu ambao wanasema ziko katika sheria. Ndio watu waende kwa uchaguzi ikiwa both parties wamekubaliana.
Asante sana. Itakuwa vile tunaweza kujiunga na mkazi mwingine. Tuambie majina yako na hisia zako kuhusiana na uchaguzi wa tarehe 17 Oktoba.
Kwa majina naitwa Babu. Mimi kwa sasa hivi ningeomba mtu wa kutufungulia sisi wa Kenya ni Justice Maraga. Maraga mpaka sasa hivi hebu tupe ukweli kama wa Kenya. Tujue nani alifanya nini na nani alifanya nini, kwa sababu hawa wote kama wa Kenya tunaspekulate, tunasema kuwa labda kuna fulani alifanya hivi, kuna fulani. Mpaka sasa hivi sisi kama wakereketwa wa Kenya tumeambiwa kuwa na opposition sava hajafunguliwa. IEBC wana makosa. Jubilee na wanasema IEBC hawana makosa. Kwa hivyo sisi kama wa Kenya tunaomba Maraga, uamuzi wako utoke sahihi, utufungue sisi kama wa Kenya. Kwa sababu sisi wa Kenya tumezuiwa na uamuzi wako Maraga. Tunakuomba sisi kama wa Kenya kuwa Maraga toa uamuzi. Tujue nani anakwenda kotini kwa hili lisirudiwe tena.
Vile itakuwa tunajiunga na mkazi mwingine hapa pengine wa mwisho. Tuambie majina yako na hisia zako kuhusiana na hii tarehe 17 uchaguzi.
Mimi kwa majina naitwa Rafael Mwania. Kulingana na uchaguzi naomba kidogo uwe postponed. Ndio pande zote mbili zipate kuelewana, na ya pili hata si pande zote mbili tupate kupata ule ukweli, kwa sababu wa Kenya tupoteza pesa nyingi. Kama uchaguzi uliopita tulichukua more than 52 billion shillings. This is taxpayers money. Now this time around we are taking more than 15 billion, ambao will take time to pay this money. We are losing our money. We want value of our money. So the guys who are in the offices and walifanya manipulation.
Asante sana bila shaka. Lillian, as you've heard from some residents of Mombasa, some of them are feeling that IEBC is not ready to conduct this election, and there are some who are saying that IEBC needs to sit down with both Jubilee and NASA coalition so that they can solve this issue before they go to the election, especially considering that there will be national examination which are scheduled to start the week after the election. Back to you, Lillian, in Nairobi.
And thanks for that update. That's the latest in Mombasa County. Let's cross over to Kisumu County, where Laura Acheng is on standby. Laura, what's the latest on your end?
Very good morning to you, Lillian. And yes, here in Kisumu County, the discussion that is ongoing is concerning the election date being pushed now. Not really being pushed, but the tussle going on between the various stakeholders. We have NASA wanting an overhaul of IEBC, and even the farm that was contracted. You know, Otimofo had said that they will not have the power to deliver if the elections are to be held on the 17th of October, and this area being one of NASA's bedrocks, it would be interesting to hear what the people have to say. Maybe if I could sample opinions of some of the people here. Sir, good morning. Can you kindly come and talk to us and tell us what do you think about the entire tussle going on between the election date?
I think the Supreme Court was very clear that election of the presidential should be held within 60 days, which elapsed on the 1st of November. And it says very clearly, election must be free, fair, credible, and according to the Constitution. So, by saying that elections should be held on the 17th, we would like to ask IEBC, one, has he consulted the stakeholders when he was announcing the date of the 17th? One. Two, you know, they said there were discrepancy and anomalies whereby some people might have not gone the rightful way. Makosa imefanyika na wale wako ndani ya IEBC. So kitu yenye tunaona mzuri, wanasema tuende kwa election. Tunataka kwenda kwa election. Hapana bora election, election bora. Kwa sababu kama siku wanasema, kwa sababu wanaona sasa kama saa hii Minister of Education wanasema hawezi kuchange date ya nini? Ya exam. We are in these two scenarios. What has brought us to this scenario? One is the Supreme Court. Two, we know that in each and every year our children go for exams. So this election will be one day. Now it has also been now another obstacle in it. The company that supplied IEBC with the machines and other things has also written to IEBC that they need 35 days. Here we are. When the 17th comes, is IEBC ready? Are they ready with all these things? Or we are going to do the same mistake that happened? Then somebody may go to court again and the election is nullified. We wasted 40 billion shillings. And some people are trying to defend some individual people that has dismantled this election. Because these were human errors. And this humanity are there. So let us wait for the full judgment, and whoever will be found culprit should be taken to book. Because Kenya has lost over 40 billion shillings. We are now on the time wasting. We are now going to waste a lot of time. Now you hear the Minister of Education also says he's not going to change the what?
Thank you very much. A very vocal opinion there. Of course, everybody is waiting for the full Supreme Court judgment, which is, of course, the threshold is on the 21st of this month, basically to see what goes down. And as you know, Lillian, 45,000 is the total number of KEMS kits that Otimofo had was rather coordinating during the August 8th poll. So it's a wait-and-see game to see even how the meeting will turn out tomorrow between the stakeholders and IEBC, and basically to see whether we will have elections on the 17th or whether it's going to be pushed, and also we see the fate of the exams. Lillian.
Thanks for that, Laura Acheng. Back here in studio, I'm joined by Stephen Mogaka, who is a constitutional lawyer. We're also joined by Joseph Simeha, a political analyst, and Gabriel Motoma, who is a political analyst. Thank you very much for being with us on Citizen Extra. We're beginning with a headline story on today's dailies, and this is a new twist to the Maraga ruling row. It has now emerged that a petition has been filed against 2 of the 4 judges who annulled Uhuru's win. Stephen Mogaka, you're a constitutional lawyer. What do you make of this new development?
I'm not so sure I've caught up with what the development is, Lillian. If you could put me up to speed, I've not been news me first. Okay, let's begin
with the fact that there's a damning affidavit which has been filed at the JSC. It's seeking to investigate Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu and Supreme Court Judge Isaac Lenaola over gross misconduct. We do know that prior to this, President Uhuru Kenyatta had openly criticized this ruling, and the Supreme Court and he and his deputy had said they would revisit this issue should they win in October. There was also the Wambogo anti-Maraga petition that also caused a storm. So we're looking at this development which has come ahead of the detailed ruling. Hours to the detailed ruling, a new development emerging here that is casting aspersions on the annulment of President Uhuru Kenyatta's victory.
Thank you, viewer, and good morning. I think the Supreme Court as constituted comprises of judges who have been in practice for quite a long time, and it is within any citizen's right to file a petition against any sitting judge. And the allegations filed against a judge remain as mere allegations, and that is the law. And like citizens, judges also do benefit from the presumption of innocence until proven guilty. But coming in the backdrop of the very serious judgment that this country is waiting for from the eminent judges, I think some of these allegations, affidavits, petitions, and call them quasi-petitions, are mechanisms of trying to bring pressure to bear on the judges as they do their final judgment, because I think so much is expected out of this judgment. Remember that the determination did indicate that there was serious irregularities and illegalities. Of course, the illegalities are going to point at certain perpetrators. And in my view, some of these petitions, cases against these judges coming at this point in time are informed by the impending judgment, and they are meant to distract, they are meant to bring pressure to bear, they are meant to deface the judges ahead of the judgment. But I think judges are judges, and they will always know how to navigate. As long as the allegations are not in respect of the case before the judges now, meaning the presidential election, I don't think those particular petitions are of consequence. But and speaking from a constitutional platform, one sees that the political actors want to make every effort that ahead of the repeat election, some actors may be intending to disorganize the bench of the Supreme Court, so that by that time we conduct an election, you may find that by reason of some of these petitions, the country has been forced to, ask some of the judges to stay away or to be suspended when they are required to deal with another petition should it arise.
But having said that, Joseph, this seems to be quite a weighty matter, looking at the fact that, for instance, there are recorded phone conversations between elements in NASA and the Supreme Court judges, particularly Justice Philomena Mwilu and Justice Isaac Lenaola, that have been exposed in this particular petition.
I think what I saw, unless I just missed a detail, is that there are allegations that at certain times the signals to their phones were traced in the same locality and so on. I would really go with what my colleague here is saying. First of all, everyone has a right. If you think there is something a judge of the Supreme Court has done against the law that warrants them to be removed, file a petition. But look slightly deeper than what you see on the surface, and you'll establish actually that this is just witch hunt to bring pressure to bear upon these judges. And I'll tell you what, NASA has very, very smart lawyers. You really think they would be that stupid, even if they wanted to engage in some mischief, that would be that stupid to use their phones to communicate with judges, to meet judges to discuss this case? That's fairly smart lawyers. They wouldn't, in fact, they wouldn't go that way. But I'm just saying, assume the impossible, that they would make that attempt. They are much smarter than that to do what is being alleged in that affidavit. All this really is to bring pressure to bear upon these judges, so that whatever comes, regardless of what comes out, that you besmirch the names of the judges as much as possible, that when the judgment, the details come out, you say, well, we told you, it's been influenced. That's why, I mean, you heard Murkomen saying that, should it indict any individual in IEBC, I will know that it's NASA who has influenced them. But supposing it's just the decision of the judges, what I would like, presumption of innocence, I think extremely important. And secondly, very well seasoned judges who have had the courage to annul a presidential election will have the courage to give us the details of their reasoned judgment without bearing to this kind of pressure.
Gabriel, 2 of the 4 judges annulled Uhuru's victory. Do you think this is witch hunt, as Joseph is alluding there, or is there more to this than meets the eye?
Thank you, Lillian. One thing I'll agree with my good prof is that, number one, we should treat this as, you know, a mere somebody coming out to, you know, say this is what has happened. So at this point, probably a rumor, but it moves in a little bit, given the circumstance and what we've actually been taken into. Number one, you will realize there is a judgment that we are expecting. Could we use this to say that, you know, this is, you know, the people are preempting what will come out with the judgment? That's one thing we can say. The other thing that we can say is, did these things happen? Apart from the fact that we are, you know, crying out loud and saying, you know, the judges need to be left alone. This institution needs to be left alone. We have to demarcate where the powers come from and who actually, at the end of the day, has the powers to run about and be able to rattle what the judges are actually bringing out. And that's why when you look at some of the key articles that have been put out in this article, and that's why I was reading actually the very same thing, document that you're reading, and I agree with Semeka when he said they have smart lawyers in NASA, and very few would go and do such a silly mistake as, you know, using their phones. Actually, in this article, it has detailed that they did not use their phones themselves. The phones that were used were from other people, but it details that they are somewhere connected in one way or the other. So this is actually a very, what I would call, it's a serious allegation. It is a deep allegation if it comes out to fruition that this did happen. And then again, Lillian, we must look at the period that we are talking about. They are suggesting that, and this I'll quote from the written document that you're reading, that they were in discussion during the period of the petition. Outside that period can be understood if not condoned. I mean, judges don't, they are not an island to themselves. They interact. But during the period of when that petition is filed, it should be a no-go zone with the people who have brought the case. I mean, our good Omogaka can tell you, he's a constitutional, lawyer, and he can tell you, you are not supposed to be meeting with such, with such, during that process, you're not supposed to be meeting with the judges. However, Lillian, to answer your question, I think we need to now start thinking critically about the balance of power. The way we've chastised IEBC through allegations, and I quote that word, allegation, nothing has been proven so far, is probably the same way this methodology being used is carried to the Supreme Court. It is a mere allegation. And until such a time, when these numbers and these voice recordings that they are talking about, until such a time, Lillian, those are confirmed, guess what? We are still going to wallow in the despair of just pointing. And of interest, Stephen, is the fact that 2 of the judges, we're narrowing down to 2 of the 4 judges that annulled President Uhuru Kenyatta's victory, and this is Justice Philomena Mwilu and Justice Isaac Lenaola. If indeed there were recorded phone conversations during the time of this petition, is this breach of judicial code of conduct?
Yes and no, because as I say, Lillian, an affidavit is a mere allegation. But we really need to disabuse ourselves from the fact that judges are humans, and yes, occasionally phones can come in, and dutifully somebody will pick up the phone. But I want us to look at the case before the Supreme Court, the presidential case, and look at what judgment that will be rendered. That judgment must be based on the evidence placed before these judges. Aside from all these other allegations, where the judges went to the gym, where they met who, The case is purely determined on the evidence brought before the judges. And really, I'm telling you as a constitutional lawyer, faced with the kind of evidence that was placed before the Supreme Court, I don't think those judges had any other alternative. Yeah? Because you were here and they were all live in camera. Chairman Chebukati announces a result and is reported at the same time saying he doesn't have the forms, on the basis of which he should have made an announcement. It is IEBC that had a duty to come and demonstrate that by the time the announcement was being made, all the forms were in. They were not. Yeah,
but whether it's breach of judicial conduct, I think, is what is in question, and I don't think you've quite responded to my question.
No, it is an allegation, and if it is established as a fact that there was inappropriate contact between a litigant and a presiding judge, of course, that is questionable.
Should there be any contact at all? Should there be any contact at all?
You can't avoid contact, because what I'm saying is, Lillian, when a telephone call swings in at the receiving end, you really don't have a choice other than to pick a phone call. Is only courteous. But whether or not that phone call is a setup, whether or not the engagement that ensues impacts on what that judge eventually does in the judgment or in the conduct of that case is another story. And it is really important that while we are told that an allegation has been filed, an affidavit has been filed, it is only fair that the Judicial Service Commission takes a step to invite the judges to whom these kind of allegations are directed to respond, for you to be able to establish whether prima facie, yes, there was contact, and yes, there were transactions as alleged. But as it is now, and in the context in which these allegations are being brought, I think I will approach it with a lot of caution. As Joseph said, it is one thing making an allegation against another individual. It is yet another to actually prove that it did occur.
And Simeha, to you as well, if indeed this is judicial breach of conduct, but aside from that, seeing that this is coming just hours to the detailed Supreme Court ruling, you called this witch hunt, but then again, nobody knows what the details of this ruling will be, and therefore this could go either way. It could go in favor of NASA or in favor of Jubilee. And therefore, what this does to the credibility of this ruling, now that this court has once again been put on the spot.
Yeah, fair enough to say that give benefit of doubt, and that there could be something in there. So fair enough to say that we give the accuser benefit of doubt. But when you look at the timing and the type of allegations being made, that's when you have to ask a question that is this really genuine? Is this really a genuine complaint that this citizen is doing this in the interest of the rule of law, in the interest of the nation? Or they just want to bring pressure to bear upon these judges? Look, as Steve says, to come into contact with each other, including with judicial officers, in many cases is unavoidable. What you have to guard against is unethical conduct. What is it that is making you meet? Let me tell you a little story that someone told me just before elections. A friend in NASA that, you know what, I found Orengo and the AG and Jim Turin some social place. And so what's the problem? The guy looked very panicky. So I said, but what's the problem if those guys meet? Those guys are friends. They're senior lawyers. They're good friends. They socialize with each other. They do a lot of things with each other, even though politically they don't agree on some things. We must not see evil in every contact, between judges, if at all it happened. That's an if, and it's a big if. And litigants. Indeed, if it happens that it is meant to bear in any way on the case that they were handling, clearly, completely unethical, unacceptable, actionable in law. But for now, I think the safer thing to say is that those are allegations. Until we get details, until that case is prosecuted before the Judicial Service Commission and we actually see details that can enable us to discuss it and make our own well-informed views, For now, I think it's just allegations.
In fact, Semeka, if we find these allegations even as advocates, when you are representing litigating parties and you break to tea, you will find advocates of the both parties having tea together, and sometimes you get serious attacks saying that this advocate is meeting with the other advocate to fix my case or to compromise my case. These allegations are normal, and as I said, interacting with fellow humans within professional distances is really inevitable, and it's not a reason to make allegations unless you were part of that.
I think Mogaka may get it a little bit different when you say these are normal. The normalcy that you're talking about is when probably an advocate from one end meets with another advocate. That has been seen. You know, they probably, and some could actually share the same building where their offices are. That can be understood. And I'm not talking about that. What people are talking about is this. And Lillian, this is why you have, and Mogaka can explain further this to you, is when a judge goes to recuse himself. They do this primarily because there is probably a closer relationship, all right? It could be closer or even distance that can have them not able to provide or deduce a fair judgment. That is why you have judges recuse themselves, primarily based on that. But what is being advocated in what we see here today, and I'm liking, because, you know, I'm not the one who, you know, wrote that article. I've just seen it as much as you have, but there is a serious allegation that's coming out of here, and this is what I wanted to read to Mogaka, which says, I think it's enough, it said, Mwilu is also accused of having had several lengthy conversations with Senator Orengo through a phone number registered under the name Margaret Orengo, who the petitioner says is the sister during the entire period of the petition. There are two things you need to... This is somebody alleging to you that you spoke, you had lengthy conversations with somebody's sister who happens, and they know where the location is. They say the number is registered under the name Margaret Orengo. Margaret Orengo is an elderly and lowly tailor based in second floor stall of Aluthuli Avenue. And it goes on to say, but what I'm saying is this. This is an allegation bringing the two of you together on a lengthy conversation, unless you're telling me Orengo's sister would have anything to do with the with Justice Mwilu.
Yes.
I mean, you see, it is an allegation perpetrated in such a way that there is a relationship. It is written in the newspaper. I'm not the one coming up with this, and you'll have time to read. And that's what I'm, it is not where you just come in together and come into a contact of, you know, having tea.
Yes.
We saw during the time that that the judgment, before or after, probably slightly after the judgment came, you remember there was pictures all over the internet with Justice Maraga, with NASA Brigade, Justice Maraga with Uhuru. What we need to take out of that is that this was the period before the petition, all right? And I told you, the judiciary and the Supreme Court don't have their own island. They mix, they must meet the principles, they must meet everybody. But before the petition, had NASA or President Uhuru or anybody within Jubilee had a sitting with the likes of Justice Maraga, it would have been legally unethical for them to do that. And that can be used in a court of law or in JSC to prove that there was misconduct during the petition. And I think that's what we need to get.
And if indeed investigations prove that Philomena Mwilu and Justice Isaac Leona indeed had underhand dealings with NASA, then what happens to this ruling? Essentially, Stephen Mogaka, if you're calling these allegations, yes, investigations will be carried out, and then we'll be able to know whether or not this matter has any weight. What then happens to the ruling?
The ruling will still stand, because as I've indicated, Lillian, a ruling or any judgment is based on the evidence brought before that court. And separate from that, if indeed, as you say, there is established a prima facie case that there was improper contact with a party or a litigant in that particular petition, then there is a mechanism of carrying out a disciplinary action against those particular judges, including triggering off or initiating removal procedure according to the law. And remember that all along we have been having an ongoing judges and magistrates vetting body that has been all along continuously looking at the conduct of judges, because this is expected, because judges and magistrates are humans, and in the event that indeed it is established that there was improper conduct, yes, disciplinary action can be taken against it. But to impugn a judgment, you really must demonstrate that that improper conduct impacted on this particular judgment, which is extremely difficult, because, as I say, unless judges of the Supreme Court base their judgment on extraneous facts, extraneous evidence that was not tabled before them at that particular time, then that judgment can be relooked at and reviewed, perhaps by another Supreme Court coming later. But where we are, seriously speaking, I don't think there is anything we can do about that judgment, because the country has obeyed that judgment. We are going to another election, and therefore, other than bringing disrepute to the bench, I don't think that the proceedings that we are discussing now will have any impact on the judgment which we already have, and which as a country we have already obeyed.
Semeha, on the same, the fact that these allegations have indeed brought disrepute to the bench, if indeed these two judges were compromised, what then happens to the ruling? Does it stand, as Stephen says?
Certainly it stands. You know, again, something that we must always remember, this is a ruling of the Supreme Court. Sometimes we've held discussions in this country, and sometimes even unfortunately on this bench here, and people say that, you know, the 4 judges annulled the results of the elections, and 2 supported it. When a court of law issues a ruling, whether it's a single judge or a bench, it is a decision of that court. This is no longer Justice Mwilu's decision, Maraga's decision, or Lenaola's decision, or Njoki Ndung'u's decision for that matter. It's a decision, a binding decision of the Supreme Court of Kenya, of which Njoki Ndung'u and Professor Juang are part. They have expressed themselves on the other side, but people must remember that it is a decision of the court. So therefore it stands as a decision of the Supreme Court of Kenya. But let me just add to what I said with regards to how you must treat allegations. Those of us sitting around here, and I suppose maybe even millions of other people in this country, don't know whether Orengo has a sister called, I don't know what you called her, or
Margaret.
Not. Margaret, or not. We don't know whether he has a sister called Margaret, who is a lolly tailor somewhere or not. And I mean, newspapers write a lot of things, Lillian, a lot of things. The next thing you will hear in the news, well, this other elder also who is senior government was meeting Maraga at his house, or this other guy was meeting, I don't know who. Come on, let's wait until we really have tangible evidence. In other words, I'm just advising, let's not get too excited. Let's look at this as allegations, serious or not, and then wait until due process and these things are put on the table. Then we can have a discussion on them.
I'll get your closing remarks, gentlemen, but before that, Gabriel, these independent institutions and the culture of petitions in this country, the IEBC, we've seen that put to test as well, and now the Supreme Court as well, a lot of aspersions being cast over its credibility ahead of the October 17th poll, the repeat presidential poll, even as the country prepares for that. When we look at these two institutions constantly being put on the spotlight and not in good light, how this affects these institutions, their credibility going forward.
And you see, there's you remember there's a question I asked earlier on, and there is a quotation. What somebody said, who will guard the guards themselves? In other words, who looks after the moral gatekeepers? You've mentioned the judiciary and the IBC as two institutions that are independent or should be independent. But at the end of the day, I've always held on to the view that there has to be another link of balancing power, so that you may not have institutions thinking they are supreme. Remember, our constitution tables it very well, Lillian, that me and you, the people of this country, are the ones who have the sovereignty of this nation, the will of the people. So it is not given to an individual. And that's what makes our democracy progressive and great. And I'll go to read on this quotation, which embodied of the philosophical question of how power can be held to account. It refers to the impossibility of enforcing moral behavior when the enforcers are corruptible, as seen in the timeless cases of tyrannical governments, uncontrollable oppression, dictators, police, or judicial corruption. All right? And people go to ask, who will guard the people who guard us? And that's, Lillian, I feel that is a question that we need to sit down as a country and ask. Who will guard the moral gatekeepers? You saw when the judgment came, what we did, we pigeonholed that judgment, albeit the fact that it has come from the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has given almost what I'd call orders. And they said that the respondent one must go back and within 60 days, which is constitutional, to do another process. But immediately after that ruling, you had people go out and pigeonhole the very same judgment. Albeit the fact that they agree with one part of the judgment, they go out and pigeonhole on the other and said, no, you will not do this. Yet, it is part and parcel of the same judgment that has come from the Supreme Court. So here you have people going ahead of that judgment that has already been forwarded. And so, as moral gatekeepers, we need to ask ourselves, when do we stop living or playing to the tune of those people who, I don't want to say who pay, but I want to say the people who we feel we are more like socially attracted to? When do we stop that? And when do we fathom and hold the truth as is? That is something that we need to, all of us, find in society as the guardians of this constitution. And I like what Maraga told us. I think Maraga gave us a very good statement, which is demonstrating fidelity to our constitution. That should be in everybody's mind. Any true peace-loving Kenyan should actually be actually directed or forwarded by those good words. They make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense, Lillian. So as we finalize on this debate, one thing that I agree with my good professor is this, that we must treat this analogy on what we are reading in our newspapers as much as we want to treat it as just somebody going to the JSC and laying a petition. It is okay, but there is the burden of proof. If it comes out that there's element of truth in it, then I think we have gone so far and moved so far from the truth that I don't think we'll ever be able to get our way back home.
From you, Semeha, I get the sense that you feel like we're giving this issue undeserved attention. But away from that, what the culture of petitions in this country is doing as regards the credibility of these institutions, the Supreme Court and the IEBC.
The culture of petitions is actually a good culture. For as long as you have a basis, for as long as you're doing it in the public good, and especially when you are putting public institutions, public officers, state offices under spotlight, the culture of petitions is good. But the culture of just using that avenue to besmirch people's names and reputations is terrible. It's abhorrible. If that is the case, that you bring up allegations just for the sake of intimidating and so on and so forth. Two things I would like to separate. Whereas what we are looking at just now are allegations against two judges, you cannot equate them to what has been said about IEBC, officials of IEBC, by a court of law. A decision made by a court of law based on evidence that they did something against the constitution, that they committed irregularities. You cannot call those allegations. They are not. It's not the same thing. They actually were totally indicted that they did this. When the Supreme Court says IEBC to conduct elections, it did not say Chiloba to conduct elections, or Kasait to conduct elections, or any one of those other officers. Let us look at agitations or petitions for reforms in our institutions based on solid decisions, for example, of courts. Let us look at that positively as things meant, as processes meant to strengthen our institutions. Because if you strengthen IEBC, if you seal all the loopholes, how can it be that you're doing this so that one guy can win? If you really, what is being said and is in the open, and I've seen a lot of commentators saying that these are very reasonable demands, except they are being presented in a manner of political posturing, then it looks like two sides are competing with each other. You cross this line, you see, you cross this line, you see. But when you look at the content, the substance of those minimum, irreducible minimums, completely reasonable. So this petitioning public institutions, pushing public institutions, is essentially good for us. But we must not abuse those processes. We must not abuse those opportunities to keep testing our institutions so that they can serve us better. We must not use it for selfish reasons.
Mugaka, briefly, petitioning public institutions, how healthy this is for us as a nation, the culture of petitions, how the integrity that lies behind these processes.
No, the culture of petitions is extremely important, because the alternative would be, Lilian, carrying up a rungu or a panga to go and sort out the person you disagree with. So the building up of petitions, particularly about our public institutions, is the way to go. And this way, it will be helping reform our institutions. But when such petitions, and there are many, just like cases, when they are frivolous, when they are brought by what lawyers and judges call busybodies, then they leave a foul taste in the mouth. But faced with the situation we are facing as a country, and perhaps as my parting shot, my advice would be to prospective, current and prospective petitioners: if you don't like the message, please don't kill the messenger. And Nikolai Gogol, in his book Government Inspector, painted it very clearly, that if you look at the mirror, and in this case for Kenya is the Supreme Court, and you don't like your face in that mirror, you don't break the mirror. And even Jesus Christ, faced with the same situation, did tell people, look, do as I say and not as I do. As a country, we really need to move forward, reform our institutions, and encourage people to question our institutions wherever they are. And when questioned, please humble yourself, because you hold that position in that public office in trust for the people of the Republic of Kenya.
Thank you for your thoughts. We are taking a break now on Citizen Extra. In the first hour, we're talking about the Supreme Court, which is now under trial, just as to the detailed Supreme Court ruling with a suit that has been filed against 2 of the 4 judges who annulled President Uhuru's win. We will be back with more in the next hour. Stay with us.